Soul Streaming Entry 14. How Spiritual Currency Funds My Life. A living, breathing, audio, and written experience by Sim. There's a version of me that society would look at right now and quietly label a bum. No traditional job, no clocking in, no boss, no address, no visible productivity in the way people are taught to measure worth. I'm not working at all in the way capitalism understands work. And I want to name that plainly, without softening it or dressing it up. Not to provoke, not to justify, but because this is my current reality. I've lived inside these systems long enough to understand how they assign value. And I also know that my life no longer organizes itself around those definitions. Society is loud because it's built like a bomb. Everything is timed, pressurized, measured, and designed to explode into output. If something doesn't produce, perform, or visibly progress, it's treated as dead weight. Rest is suspicious, stillness is misread as stagnation, quiet is mistaken for disconnection, but what gets overlooked in the noise are the moments that strengthen inward currency, the moments where nothing is produced, yet something essential is stabilized. Self regulation, nervous system balancing, the ability to stay present without forcing meaning or direction. These are not passive states. They are the conditions that make spiritual currency possible. They build trust with yourself, trust with life, trust that your needs are being met even when nothing on the outside appears to be moving. That trust compounds quietly and is rarely visible to systems that only know how to count what can be proven. From that place, my days start to feel different. I notice how much more at home I feel in my body lately. The gym supports that, not as a discipline or a performance stance, but as a grounding practice. Moving my body helps energy circulate instead of getting trapped in my fucking head on a rinse and repeat cycle. It brings me into myself. I leave workouts feeling settled, like my body and my awareness are finally occupying the same space instead of pulling in opposite directions. After one of those workouts, I sit in the sun and I notice how little I want to consume. No tarot reading, no music, no frequency playing in the background. I'm not overstimulated, I'm complete. My system wants silence, not as an escape, but as a place to land. Living in the city means silence is something I have to negotiate with. There's always sound, traffic, buildings, other people's lives moving through walls and streets. Most days I use headphones to carve out pockets of quiet, but in these moments, I don't want to block anything out. I want to sit inside the noise and still find stillness, to remain present without distraction, to listen without searching for information. Sitting in the quiet, I'm aware of the noise around me, but what I'm really noticing is the energy beneath it, the pace, the urgency, the way people move through their lives in alignment with what society rewards and recognizes. Watching it doesn't pull me into comparison. It reminds me of the layers of shame I already had to transmute to step out of that current. Not because there's anything wrong with it, but because choosing a different way has always been the truest thing for me. What society may not see is that I have been living on spiritual currency my entire life, long before I had language for it, long before I understood that what I was developing wasn't laziness or avoidance, but capacity. Every position I held, every role I stepped into while working my way up to management, came with its own initiation. Each one showed me how value was assigned, measured, and rewarded, often disconnected from the actual intelligence, emotional labor, and awareness being carried. Moving through those roles didn't give me my worth. It revealed that it was already there. I've always been paid in something other than money, in discernment, in emotional intelligence, in pattern recognition, in the ability to feel what others refuse to touch, in the ability to sit with discomfort without needing to numb it, fix it, or turn it into a performance. That has always been my real economy. Spiritual currency isn't aesthetic, it isn't passive, and it isn't fucking free. I earned it through years of healing that require me to dismantle belief systems I inherited instead of protecting them for the sake of belonging. I earned it by questioning things that are handed to me as truth and choosing to find out what actually resonates in my body. I earned it by feeling my feelings instead of bypassing them, by breaking cycles instead of romanticizing them, by walking away from identities that once kept me safe but no longer keeps me honest. That kind of work doesn't come with a paycheck, but it comes with a depth most people never develop. What it means to be empty. Recently, I learned a word that finally gives language to what I feel in my body, and that word is kenosis. It means an emptying, a voluntary emptying, not collapse, not erasing, an intentional laying down of identity, attachment, and illusion. And that is exactly how this season feels. I feel empty, not lost, not broken, empty. Like old structures that once held me are gently but firmly removed, and not to punish me, but to make room. Kenosis isn't failure, it's recalibration. This kind of emptiness isn't theoretical for me. It shows up in real life. It shows up in how things get taken care of without me pushing or negotiating. Sometimes that looks like living somewhere rent free. Sometimes it looks like protection that doesn't need to be named. Not because I asked for it, but because my presence carries steadiness. People feel safe around me. They feel seen without having to perform. They feel regulated just by being in the same space. That matters. That becomes currency. Before numbers, contracts, and systems tried to quantify value, this is how wealth moved. Someone cooks a meal because care is present. Someone offers a place to stay because trust is felt. Someone watches your child, checks on you, opens a door, covers a bill without announcing it. And you may never know the how. You don't need to. The how is built through what you've already given, through consistency, through integrity, through showing up without extraction. Energy circulates long before money does. And it doesn't always come back with a dollar amount attached. Sometimes it comes back as relief you didn't ask for, support you didn't plan for, needs met quietly. Systems don't know how to validate this because they can't measure it, but life responds to it every time. This is spiritual currency, and most people have been building it through their everyday actions without ever being taught to recognize it. Spiritual currency is always being accumulated, whether we are conscious of it or not. It is built through how we respond to life, how we move through discomfort, how we choose presence over reaction. But when the time comes for that currency to ground into the physical world, it often requires a level of detachment that feels unsettling. A strange pause, a stillness before materialization. Many people try to fill that space with urgency, meaning, or fear. What is actually required is emptiness. Not passive waiting, but intentional non interference. The willingness to trust that what has already been earned does not need to be chased. It simply needs room to land. There is a reason people are afraid of emptiness. Not because it's painful, but because it is unfamiliar. Emptiness is often mistaken for loss, numbness, or failure, when in truth, it is the absence of distortion. To empty yourself is not to disappear. It is what remains when belief systems loosen and expectations that were never truly ours fall away. It is to stop carrying what was never meant to be held by you. This kind of emptiness does not feel hollow. It feels spacious, neutral, present. A quiet that arrives when the nervous system no longer needs to brace for what comes next. Spiritual currency accumulation. Every moment carries choice. Free will is always present, even when it doesn't feel like it. Each time I respond to life differently than my conditioning would have me respond, something shifts. Each time I don't repeat a pattern from my lineage, my upbringing, or my survival programming, energy moves and takes on a new shape and meaning. It doesn't just heal, it transmutes. Presence instead of reaction, awareness instead of repetition. Those moments carry a different frequency, and over time, those frequencies accumulate. If I'm being honest, vibration is currency. What I'm realizing in this moment is that spiritual currency isn't built in one place or through one action. It's built in how all of these things move together. The noise of the city, the way my body adjusts its own rhythms without me forcing it, the nights where I don't sleep deeply but still wake up feeling like something has reorganized itself inside me. The choice to not overdefine what's happening or analyze myself out of my own experience. I'm self regulating in real time, letting my nervous system find balance without micromanaging it. Trust in my body, trust in my intuition, trusting that even when things look quiet or unfamiliar on the outside, my needs are being met in ways I can't always see yet. This is how spiritual currency is built, not just through healing old wounds, but through presence, through restraint, through the ability to stay with myself without grasping for certainty, through the quiet trust that life is responding to me as I respond to it, even when there's no immediate evidence to point to, especially then. In spiritual realms, ranking doesn't work the way it does here. There's no resume, no hustle, no proof of output. It's about integration, about capacity, about how much truth you're willing to hold without turning away from yourself. I know this intimately, without arrogance and without apology. I hold a high spiritual ranking, and not because I climbed my way there, but because I descended into wisdom I already knew. I let things dismantle me that most people spend their entire lives defending. I don't outsource my feeling. I don't spiritualize my pain to escape it. I stay with myself through the unraveling. That counts in ways the 3D world doesn't yet know how to measure or quantify. The phase I'm in now is not about earning more spiritual currency. That part is already done. This phase teaches me how to materialize it, how to translate what I build in the unseen into form without betraying myself, how to receive without contorting, how to allow support without turning my life into something performative or palatable. That's why things look quiet. That's why they look empty. That's why from the outside it might look like nothing is happening. The void is not laziness. Stillness is not stagnation. This space is calibration, compression, alignment. I am unavailable to false economies now, economies that require self abandonment in exchange for safety, economies that confuse urgency with value. I understand how threatening that looks to people who rely on the structure to feel secure. But this is discipline of a different kind, the kind that doesn't force movement before alignment is complete. Spiritual currency shows up in my life in non-linear ways. Needs are met without force. Guidance arrives without panic. Safety doesn't come from control. Trust doesn't require proof. It looks irresponsible to people who need guarantees. It feels natural to me because this is the economy I've always lived in, even before I knew what to call it. What wealth means to me. When I reread my old journals from late 2022, the ones where I write about what wealth actually means to me, I don't feel embarrassed or naive. I feel proud. Proud of how early my nervous system recognized the truth, even before my external circumstances caught up. I'm not writing about numbers or status. I'm writing about stability across the board, about peace of mind on any given day, about safety in my body, about clarity and spaciousness. Wealth, to me, looks like having control over my time and schedule. It looks like working part of the year and using the rest of my energy to teach, guide, create, and explore. It looks like reciprocal relationships, healthy love, and community that feels nourishing instead of transactional. It looks like being able to support causes that matter and harmonizes humanity. To give without strain. To imagine land that can be lived on, built on, and shared. It looks like freedom, the ability to go where I want, when I want, without my nervous system collapsing under fear. Sitting here now, I can see that many of those things are already part of my lived reality. Not because I chased them, but because I chose to heal my relationship with wealth before trying to hold more of it. I'm not modeling how to escape work. I'm modeling how to redefine value for yourself based on your needs. For myself, for my lineage, for the people who feel broken because they cannot thrive inside systems that were never built with their sensitivity, their depth, or their nervous systems in mind. This isn't avoidance, it's architecture. Slow, deliberate, and honest. What feels clear to me now is this: I am not a bum. I am not broke. And the balance in my bank account does not speak to the millions I carry in capacity, access, and possibility. I am allowed to move when I need to move, choose what aligns, and say no without fear. I was designed to remember my natural currency, my spiritual currency. This is how I move through life, not by forcing myself into systems that can only recognize numbers, but by honoring what I already carry and learning how to ground it here in real time without betraying myself. The stillness isn't a pause or a delay, it's part of the process. It's where what I've lived, integrated, and embodied begins to take form. My legacy thread. This isn't about rejecting money or systems. It's about remembering that value existed long before either of them. My legacy is not to hustle. It's not proving. It's not about surviving louder than my nervous system can tolerate. My legacy is remembrance that wealth begins in the body, that safety is a currency, that presence, integrity, emotional regulation, and care have always been valuable, even when no one knew how to price them. I am leaving behind a map for those who feel out of place in systems that reward urgency over discernment. A reminder that you don't have to abandon yourself to be provided for, that you can build a life where spiritual currency leads and material currency follows. This is how I live. This is how I will be paid. And this is what I pass on. A whisper for you. You are richer than you've been taught to measure. Every moment you chose presence over panic, every time you offered safety instead of extraction, every time you regulated yourself instead of reacting, you deposited something real into the field. That currency didn't disappear because it wasn't named. It's been circulating this whole time. You don't have to chase what already knows your name. You just have to let it meet you where you are. Here are your journal prompts for this week's entry. Take your time with these. There's no right order. Number 1, what forms of value do I offer naturally that rarely gets acknowledged by systems? Number 2, how do I know when my nervous system is regulated enough to receive? Number 3, where in my life have my needs been met without force, negotiation, or proof? Number 4, if I trusted that spiritual currency leads and material currency follows, what would I stop rushing right now? Thank you for witnessing this soul stream. Replay it or reread it whenever you need to come home to yourself. Until next time, stay soft, stay true, and keep streaming your soul your way. Love, Sim.